Alright, welcome to this section on rendering our frames and basically just doing the final output from 3D Studio Max. So we went over a few things in putting the scene together section where we changed our render settings to mental ray. We added a little bit of this glow effect in there. We're going to be doing a little bit of that more in After Effects when we bring the frames in, and some color correction. So right now, let me just show you the setup that I'm going to be doing to render all these frames. So right now I got 1,000 frames, and that's all we're really going to deal with. So the setup right now is I'm going to go to my renderer tab, and I'm going to change my sample quality to 4/16. I'm going to change my filter to Mitchell because it gives a little bit more sharper rendering, and I'm going to change the width and height to 3. Now, since we're not dealing with any lights in this scene, I'm not going to worry about soft shadow precision or any of this stuff. I'm not going to worry about glossy reflections or refractions. So I'm just going to basically make sure that the quality is good and that it's at the right size. I'm getting my common parameter under the common tab under common parameters. I'm just gonna make sure that active segments are from 0 to 1,000. I am going to change my width to, let's see, to about 1200. So this is gonna be very widescreen, and this is gonna be good enough for us. I'm gonna go to options, click off displacement since we're not using this displacement at all. And what I'm going to do is save out some frames. And what I'm going to do is create a folder called frames. And I'm just going to call this fx_scene. And I'm going to save it as targas. So fx_scene_ save as targa, so it'll render out the frames by number. And this is all we really need to work with here. In After Effects, we can actually mess with a little bit of DOF, depth of field, and we can try a lot of other things. But rendering this thing out is pretty simple, because we're not really doing anything crazy at all as far as materials or as far as lighting is concerned. So as far as what we're going to do in post effect, we'll take care of adding some of those touch-ups to the graphics and stuff like that. So the setup's pretty simple. So what I'm going to do right now is pretty much going to send out my rendering. I'll collect the frames in the next section. And what we're also going to try to do is, since this actually might be a good opportunity for us, what we're going to do is, instead of actually rendering the whole entire thing, what we are going to do is we're going to render basically 3 layers. So if you go to your layers, let's turn off everything. The first thing we're going to render is basically all the graphics that we created. That includes the circles, the text, the dash circles. So we're going to render all these out. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to render this. We're going to turn all this off. Then we're going to render all the particles. So we're going to render out the circle particles that we created, and then we're going to render out the dash line particles we created. So we're going to be compositing in After Effects three separate renderers. So what I'm going to start to do here is I'm just going to start rendering all the graphics that we created first. So in the next section, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in all these different renders into After Effects and just start cleaning everything up and making everything look nice. So again, we're going to render out 3 passes. We're going to render out the graphics. We're going to render out the particle dash effect, and we're going to render out the particle circle dashes that we created. Okay? Alright, so in the next section, we're going to bring in all these frames, and we're going to start pretty much doing some fun stuff in After Effects.